Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanaka la ilma lana. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i. Glory be to you, ya Allah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanaka la ilma lana. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i. Glory be to you, ya Allah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanaka la ilma lana. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i. Glory be to you, ya Allah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanaka la ilma lana. Glory be to you, ya Allah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi Islamic Political and Moral Economy, Islamic Banking, Finance and the Political Economy of Development in the Muslim World. Prof. Ali's recent research includes the constructions of Islamic Moral Economy and Islamic Political Economy, both of which are considered an incomplete project since in early 1970s. So we put dua and wish may this project be successful in the near future. Additionally, Prof. Ali developed the discourse around the social and developmentalist value of Islamic banking and finance in relation to the expressed ideas of Islamic moral economy by essentializing the sharing and cooperative economy nature of Islamic finance. Prof. Ali is also involved in empirical research on various aspects and dynamic of Islamic banking, finance, and sustainable development. I think with these brief introductions about Prof. Ali, I think he is the best and what we call that. We will say we are very fortunate because we have Prof. Ali as a guest today. Okay. Without further ado, I will pass this session to Prof. Ali. فليتفضل مشكورا.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. It's lovely to be here after 2 years back to Malaysia. So we'll share with you some of the ideas which we are discussing in Dundee. It will be something probably that I want to show you how we build on the foundation of Islam, which you already studied quite well. You know about Quran and Sunnah and the methodologies, how the revealed knowledge is functioning. But how we can take that real knowledge and make the reality of today? Quran tell us from 14th centuries, but most of the things that we have today, we need to essentialize the meaning. You are familiar when I say essentialize the meaning, you are the one who will say what Quran says, or it applies this or that. Now, the whole discourse of Islamic finance, and you probably know, is this working, guys?
Yeah.
Or can you hear me like this? Good. So, so when we are talking about Islamic finance now, it's something that become reality in last, let's say, 40 years. But it didn't come from the blue sky. We still need to relate to the philosophical understanding. And I know when you study Sharia, and I studied also at Al-Azhar, we somehow don't like philosophy. We just want Sharia, it's halal and haram, black and white. Do it or don't do it. But actually it doesn't work like that. And then you will realize that reality is something else. When I say, okay, there is a halal and haram, why? Because haram leads to certain consequences. But also when you do something halal, it should lead to some other consequences. But when you are talking about financial world, it's really not black and white. Some financial transaction, when you are moving the capital from, let's say, from A to B, is a transaction. You can halalize the process so that whole movement of capital from here to here is okay, but you are creating the damage to society. So movement of capital is okay, but that movement created the damage. Now then, is this really Islamic? Yes, it's qualified, the all ticks the boxes of Sharia law, of fiqh. But somehow that ticking the boxes actually doesn't look right. So what's the issue here? Because you need to drive the philosophy. Now you all studied the jurisprudence, I assume, usul fiqh, yeah? So what are the classification of action in in usul fiqh? So we will say that the function of action is that fard is greater than equal to wajib, yeah? And wajib is greater than equal to sunnah. And sunnah is greater than equal to mustahab. And mustahab is greater than equal to mubah. And mubah is greater than equal to makruh. And makruh is greater than equal to haram. Is what you have studied in the fiqh? Yes. So how come today we only have division if something is either halal or haram? So if the Sharia scholars in the part, they classify the action in so many things. So how come that suddenly we only have two HH? So what is this? This created something we call it ideology. Because anything that we have today, modern, like a bank, so it's either halal or haram. Might be that bank is fard, the other one is wajib, otherwise is a sunnah. We don't have that classification anymore. So anything you have around you now, so 40 years ago we have Islamic bank, so we halalize it. And then we came with insurance, we got Islamic insurance, again we halalize it. Then we have microfinance, then we have also capital markets. And today we are talking about digital economy, fintech, blockchain. We again do the same thing. Why? Because we don't have a methodological approach or philosophy which will make things looking differently. So how your knowledge of Quran and Sunnah inform you to create the judgment and what you need to do. That's where is the problem. So therefore, everything you have around yourself today will fit in one of the 5 ideologies. Number 1, it will be, you have something called traditionalist. Okay. So you have a traditionalist. What does it mean to be traditionalist, guys? Does anyone know? So you have today Islamic, you have a bank, okay, which is innovation of the Western society, but you want to have Islamic bank, and we have it now. So how we look at that from traditionalist point of view? Let me put it this different way, guys. Let's assume the history line. The Prophet ﷺ, he emerged here. And then we have four right-guided caliphs, 30 years period, yeah? Then you have Umayyad dynasty, yeah? Ben Umayyah, Syria, and then they move to Spain. Then you have Abbasid dynasty in Baghdad. And then you have others as well, but let's just take the main one, big one. You have Ottomans. Yeah? And then we have something called fall of Khilafat. And then we have suddenly 60 years of dormancy of Islamic law. So Islamic law was not applied in the public life. And then you have something called nation states, which emerge. When was established Malaysia? In 1957. Pakistan, 1949. The last one was created in 1972, GCC countries. So you have all our nation states, we are now here, this is now reality, they are 60, 70 years old. So within the dormancy of Islamic law, which wasn't applied in the public life, it brings to another question that many things that they are emerging here. So banks, insurance, microfinance, anything you want to name it, you are trying to solve by looking into the past. Into where? Into the centuries. So somebody must said something within the one of the fiqh laws that you can relate to anything. So that's why somebody will make that the bank is halal, but at the same time somebody else will make it haram. That's why you have opposing opinions. Because everything is possible, it's just way I will approach it. As a traditionalist or fundamentalist, you probably heard that. Fundamentalist means to keep the status quo, to continue of the past. Now the second one will be also fundamentalist. The third one is a secularist. What does it mean secularist? It doesn't mean that they don't believe. Many secularists will believe in God, but they will tell you that Islam or religion has nothing to do with the private life. So on the street, you can pray as much as you wish at home, all good. You want to go to mosque? Go. No one in the Western world or in the colonial time will have problem that you pray at home. Pray as much as you wish. But everyone will have a problem the moment you bring Islam on the street. That's the problematic one. So secular means that your Islam is relevant for your private space. Pray at home or go to mosque. But don't organize economy, neither finance to Islamic values. Do you, any of you, drive car and follow the Sharia principles of safety on the road? No. But why we don't have it? Even though Islam should prescribe that. Because one of the maqasid, you studied maqasid, is the preservation of life. But somehow, Sharia scholars didn't find appropriate to develop the tools of safety on the road. And it's not haram if you go through the red light, because we don't have that in our ontology in Quran and Sunnah, which says that crossing the red light is haram. Well, Allah doesn't say in Quran, oh, you believe when you are driving the car or you're riding your camel or horse, please don't cross on the red light. We don't have that verse. Otherwise, Sharia scholars will make it haram. So that means it's again ideology. How are you going to deal with that? So centuries of Islamic law, and then how you will connect it and attach it. The fourth one will be what we call it modernity. Now this is the problematic one. So it doesn't mean being modern. It has nothing to do with. This is a philosophical word. Modernity means that anything that the modern science invented is also equal to Islamic. But the question is it? So when we say, okay, there's a bank, we put some of our Muslimic spices and we will get Islamic bank. That's a modernity. That's what makes you modernist. Or we call them apologetic modernists. So we just say, oh, Islam says as well that. And the last one, which we are actually propagating here, but Islamic scholarship and discourse are still behind that, is called postmodernity. Now, what does mean postmodernity? That we look into the past, from the Prophet to the generations, how they understood, applied Islam to different generations, and we come here. And now, in our place where we are now, this is our present. So based on the techniques and tools, you need to find your own solution. You are not going into the past just to make it ideology. Past is a just literature review. How different societies solve the issues. So if I ask you a question, guys, you study statistics, finance here. What is the value of any statistical results in Islamic jurisprudence? We say that 50% or R squared, okay? Validity or reliability of the data is 52%. What does it mean that from Sharia point of view? Does it mean that we need to just accept it on the face value? From the jurisprudential point of view, because you study jurisprudence, yeah? In Islamic fiqh, we know there are two methodologies. In kunta naqilan fasiha. So siha is authenticity, the chain of narrator from the Prophet to the second generation to us to recording of hadith, and then we know the strengths of the hadith. That's the chain. So that is called authenticity. That you have enough people who will not agree on lie. That's what it make it mutawatir, higher level of authenticity, 100% certain. Then you get sahih, yeah, will be 99.9, but there is still 1% which we might consider it might be problem, but it's a higher level of certainty. Then you have sahih li ghayrihi. There are other evidences which support that will be 98%. And then you will go down until you come to the mawdu, invented hadith, which is absolutely uncertainty. So we have a classification of transmission of the information. But then you have also something which says, وَإِن كُنْتَ مُدَّعِيًا فَالدَّلِيلُ. So if you are claiming, then you need to provide the evidence in Islamic law. So what is the claim in Islamic law? When you study jurisprudence, what do they say? You have qiyas and iltizam, dilal iltizam. Qiyas is analogy. So you look at the strengths of common denominator. Alcohol is forbidden because it has an element which makes your brain non-functional. So any kind of derivations because of the qiyas factor, it applies the same ruling. Dilalatul iltizam, or correlation, you say that minaret in the village is a sign of what? There are Muslims in the village. But can you say all villagers are Muslim? Because that will be weak correlation. So you have a strong correlation which can reach to 100% certainty, which can be taken as evidence, but then you have weak, which might not be taken as evidence. Now, when you are taking this in consideration, I have now, in this time, developed something qualified or certified expert. So, you imagine you are all medical doctors, and I interview each of you individually, and I ask you specific question. You might not agree on many things. So what will be the evidence or value of that information for us to make the judgment or ruling? That's the question. Or let's say we collect questionnaire. We are 1,000 people, and then we get results, statistical results. What will be the value of those results to create the ruling? This is what will be now fall under postmodernity. How you want to integrate and incorporate modern things so that you can have what we call it the judgment which will be applicable for today without falling into the issue of ideology and hence fitting within the two H, halal and haram. Because in the past, something that Imam Shafi will say that is fard, Abu Hanifa will say it's haram. No way. He might say it's a wajib. Witr prayer. Shafi says it's fard. Abu Hanifa says it's a wajib. But how come we have now two extremes? Because halal and haram are two extremes in the actions. And hence the confusion is coming. So this is just all introduction, what we're gonna do, what is in the slide, so basically, but from the different perspective. Before we move, any question? No question? I know, boys, you are not following, but that's fine. That's why you don't have a question. Anyway, now when we are coming to talk about Islamic economics, that is the philosophy. That should be the field which will advise the fiqh whether something will fit in which category so that you can have more informed judgment instead of just falling into H and H. And that's why it's a need to understand what's going on beyond. So when I have a transaction, a movement of capital from A to B, fiqh will not tell me what will happen with it after that transaction is conducted. But Islamic economics need to tell me what are the implications. And that's what we need. But that's why my talk starts with something which, I don't know if you are familiar with the detective stories in the UK. Have you heard about Sherlock Holmes? Oh, excellent. So that's why I start the story of this presentation with this. So this is a discussion between the detective and one of the guards. And what it says, George, Scotland Yard detective, is there any other point to which you would like, which you wish to draw my attention? Holmes said, to the curious incident of the dog in the night time. Said Gregory, the dog did nothing in the night time. So Holmes, that was the curious incident. What do we mean by that, guys? So dog's supposed to bark at night, this is what we know, but dog didn't do anything. So Islamic finance, as a new innovation in this structure, is supposed to create some noise, but somehow from the curious incident it doesn't. And that's where is the problem. Because when we just halalized the movement of capital to A to B without thinking what we're going to make out of that, what will be the implication and the consequences, then is the problem. Then what makes you different? That's where is the curious incident which happened in this story, that Islamic banks do not bark, they don't make the noise, that there is something value proposition comes out of it, because this is what we believe. If any of you I ask, what do you believe? This is what you studied, that Islam makes a difference. It needs to establish the justice, it is a fairness, this is X, Y, Z. But then you suddenly have Islamic banks, which provides what? Islamic capitalism in a different way. What conventional bank does, this guy do the same way, hence what's the distinction? And that's the question mark. So the whole journey is that we need a theory which will actually show that it goes beyond just fiqh applications of, and that's what we call it searching for meanings. What we can have alternative definitions of way, resource allocation. And I will show you why we are questioning things. So there are different answers. I don't want to go there. I want to start from here. Capitalism, which you are part of it in Malaysia and anywhere else in the world. See, this picture actually tells you a lot. On the right side, you have a picture of what human beings, due to the capitalism, we left on the beach. These are the turtles, and the other ones are the birds. But this creates a lot of environmental issues and the problem, and that's why the whole discourse of sustainable development. Islamic finance, as different model of financing, did not come with solving this environmental issues. It also came from other sources. But somehow we suddenly become so excited, and the Muslims are just talking about system. But if it's that true, why we didn't come with a solution? Because finance, movement of capital, A to B, does not provide the solutions for this. It actually makes this. Providing the financial means, Islamic or non, you are increasing the consumerism, spending, indebtedness, which leads to that. And hence, this is another thing. We are constantly told that we need to rush to achieve something. Now, these are the dogs in the UK, they love dogs, that they are running, but it's illusion. There's nothing that they need to catch. It's just to move them, run. Or the other one in the Arab world is the camels, but it can be anything. So what is the objective of this? In the neoclassical understanding, is a linear growth. You constantly try to grow more money, more consumerism, more production, and hence this is what you are trying to achieve. But for what? Islam tells us that when we are consuming and buying, producing, the whole has to be linked to the hereafter, akhirah, but there is no akhirah in this one. And if the Islamic finance is like others, they just want to create the growth without considering the bigger picture. For what price, for purposes, then is the problem here. That's why they are not barking, as we established. And hence people are looking into the change. But this brings us to the representation, what we are challenging here. See, the justice should be that this little guy, he needs to be given more so that he can see the football or match, whatever it is. But equality, that you give equally everyone, but that doesn't work, guys. Because the little guy cannot still see. The capitalism is the reality that the owner of the money, he or she, they get everything. That's why it's called capitalism. Now we need to distinguish when we are talking about capitalism, and we'll talk about others. Why it's called capital? Because if you take main factors of production, which are land, labor, and capital. Yeah? So when I combine these three forces, and plus entrepreneurship, but we don't need to put it, what will get production? Yeah? But in this model, who does get everything? Is a capital provider. So they will get alpha. Land and labor, they will get what? 1 minus alpha. Yeah? Because these guys will get wage. So this will be determined by capitalist owner of production. And land will get what? Rent. So this is how it works. And hence, the model is called capitalism because you will put money, you will invest, because you get incentives here. So in terms of the production, who owns the production and distribution is determined by capitalism. Okay? We are all happy with this? So then we have a socialist model. So this will be capitalism. Now you heard about socialism? Yes. So then put again land, labor, and capital. Who gets the alpha in socialism? Labor, yeah? And the others 1 minus alpha. So that's why there is no incentives for investment here, because your return is determined by somebody else. And hence you will not have incentives to invest. That's why this model failed. Now let's say that this is Islamic economy. I have land, labor, and capital. Who will get the alpha? Who gets the alpha? So if I give it to capital, it's a capitalism, so it's the Islamic capitalism. See, that's the problem with the model, because each of these will have their own ontology. So from which point you see it. Are you familiar with ontology and epistemology, guys? Ontology is how I see the world. So if I put the glasses of Islam, then my ontology will be Islamic, Quran and Sunnah. If I'm the socialist, my ontology will be dialectic materialism. That's the Hegel theory. If I am neoclassical, which means the capitalist, it will be the positivism, with your ontology is becoming methodology. So things you look at it, you try to define the law. So it's a positivism. And you will create everyday institutions and regulations. So we still haven't solved the issue equation of Islamic modes of production, because this is where is the issues. Because if we are trying to halalize the capitalism, you're saying the same problem, because the people who got the money, but in our case, we will just put some money to the mosque, we will make donation, and everyone will be happy. So that's the way I like to soften it up, but the reality is the same. So this is another one. So you have equality, doesn't solve the problem. Equity will, but reality is much worse. People who got the money, they got everything, and people who don't have, that's the reality. So what we would like to see is equity or equality, but actually the justice. The whole call for justice is that everyone can see is how you can remove the barriers between the people. That is the meaning of Islam. And if I now bring the Islamic bank or institution as a tool, in the capitalism, if they are just expected to deliver the capitalist model, they will fall in the trap and will do same problem. But how I can bring them to do the justice? So it's not about measuring movement of capital from A to B, it will be something else. So, but the whole purpose of developmentalism in the Muslim world is not only to respond to the reality, is actually to create liberalization. the freedom that we are talking about. That will be rationalizing Islamic economics as emerging theory which aims to achieve that. And in that case, modes of production of Islam will be that each factor will get alpha. Yeah? Why? Because the profit and loss sharing, PLS, require that in the case we are doing well, we split the profit. And also when we are not doing well, we will actually split the loss. That should be the economic analysis, which has nothing to do create the value judgment of H and H. It's a completely different philosophical settings which should lead to different outcomes. And hence, that brings us to the following things. So, conventional finance, which is a result of the capitalism and its modes of production, leads to the failure. Every 8 to 10 years, we will have a crisis. There is a book called 800 Years of Financial Crisis. So are we as a Muslim are interested to fall in that trap that we are trying to adopt and halalize something that fails constantly? That's one thing. Also in terms of the macroeconomic imbalances, which we have seen the picture, or we want to come with alternative system. So in that sense, we'll talk about what is the finance. Now, this definition is the art of protecting and financing people. That's the definition on one of the banks in Switzerland, conventional bank. But it cannot be better definition than to be said and applied to any Islamic bank. It's the art of protecting and financing people. That should be our main postulate. So, and then financial differences. Yes, what is the whole purpose of this? To create liberalization so that we can respond to the issues of the developmentalism, imbalances, inequalities, and so. Now, this is the Nobel Prize winner Schiller, who actually trying to say finance is not about making money per se, because the capitalism is all about that. But it says it's a functional science in that it exists to support other goals, those of the society. In other words, what we are trying to say, that the idea of the consequences or what you are trying to do, it cannot be just here. Because even conventional finance recognize that finance is done for the sake of something else. And that something else in this case is a references to the social things. Somebody needs to borrow the money to buy the house, somebody needs to borrow money to build the road. There is some other things. It's not about just doing the tawarruk, make the financial or synthetic economy. You know what is a synthetic economy? Money made out of money. That is in our Islamic one is tawarruk or bay'ul ayna, which is actually nothing to do with the real economy, which has implication in the real life. And that brings us to the interesting story called Islamic moral economy. Now you will see that in the West, we don't like Islamic economics because economics is a value-free science, but Islamic is a value judgment. So how you can put two opposing things together? Hence, the whole movement is called Islamic moral economy. Islamic moral economy is invented by who? Unfortunately, not from Al-Azhar University, neither from any Islamic university in the world. It is somebody called Karl Polanyi. He was a British author who wrote about transformation of British society from pre-modern into modern. And what are the implications of that transformation? So, moral economy means if I'm implementing something, and in this case we are referring to the finance, then we mean that it should be embedded in the real economy. What does it mean real economy? Implication in the real life. So I'm financing to buy, to build, to do something tangible, real, or community, or mutuality, or the fictitiousness. So you don't want to have fictitious economy, which means I'm making money out of money, but actually something tangible and real. Coordination, distribution, inherent values, justice, and so on. So the whole process is based on referring to the tangible things. And that brings the question to the ontology, guys, which I already mentioned it. What is the essence? So if you see this one, guys, is it 5 greater than 4? Yes. But then, is it 4 greater than 5? Just imagine the portfolio of finance, which gives the return 5% with the other portfolio which gives 4%. So by default, we will go for the one which gives 5. But imagine the other scenario that you have portfolio which is ethical, does not have any harami things, and gives you only 4%, and the other one which is unethical. So what makes it greater now is essence of your ontology from which you are looking from. Because if you are Muslim, ethically aware person, then this portfolio will become immediately higher than the previous one. Not in terms of the nominal value, but in terms of the factors that are determining where you are looking at the society or on the portfolio. So in that case, 4 will be greater than 5. So this is what determines the ontology. So from there, now everything that you do here, guys, is it your right or is it privilege? Coming to university and study here, is it your right or privilege? So this is the very much neoclassical understanding, because neoclassical things assume that this is my right to come. Actually, it's your privilege according to Islam. Because there are many kids who cannot be here. They cannot afford it. Or they have to do other things. They need to look after their family. They cannot be here. So it's actually privilege. But neoclassical things teach us that this is the Eurocentric perspective, and that is their ontology, that everything I have, it's my right. But according to Islam, everything will give it is, you can have it today, somebody else will have tomorrow. We don't have anything absolute ownership and value. Even your car, house, you might have it now while you're in this life, somebody else will continue. So there is no absolute ownership. So whatever you have, it's your privilege. If you are born somewhere else, let's assume you are born in some African countries, you might not have many things that you now enjoy. How come? If it's your right to have it, you're supposed to have it all the time, but it's not. Because the right teach the capitalism. This is where it's coming, understanding. That's why ontologically is different. And hence, it makes you self-rationalist or self-maximizing utilitarianist. Whereas, if we are applying the logic of Islam or ontology, this is what Quran teaches you, then everything you have, it's your privilege, because Allah gave you and might take it tomorrow as well. See, this is the foundation, why we call it the base for developing of Islamic economics. It cannot be just made on the fiqh understanding H and H, because there are different arrangements that we need to consider, because ihsan hereafter teach us from where this meaning are coming. And hence, ontologically, we look from the different angles. And these different angles will lead to the different expectations. And hence, we have a differences. So what is in ontology? So ontology comes from worldviews, how I see it. So if I want to be very much purely capitalist, we have seen it, the meaning is very much possessive, individualistic. But worldview of Islam comes from axioms. Does Tawheed change? La ilaha illallah, concept of Allah's unity. Never change. Doesn't matter whether you are on the moon or on the Malaysia or wherever you are, it's always la ilaha illallah. But what does mean that economically? That means that we are all in front of God equal. That is a vertical meaning of equality. So which means the resources of the God given belongs to us equally. You cannot have any superiority claim over that. And this is the problematic meaning in many GCC countries to teach. So that's where the worldview, values, and the norms come. And that creates foundational principles. But now, when I look at the society, if I look into the Malaysian society, will that tell me, based on the modes of production which we established, oh, this is Islamic, or this is the capitalist or socialist? Yes, I could say for Malaysia it is very much capitalist society with some Islamic flavors on top of it. But you did not create, unfortunately, or no one else yet didn't create Islamic social formation that say, oh, that is Islamic society because of the modes of production. When I look at the West, it's a purely capitalism. And if you looked in the 1990s, 80s, Russian blocs and countries, you would say, oh, that is a socialist model because they were unique and distinguished. But then with the break of the, with the convergence of civilization, you heard about it, that means that we are all moving to one, which is a capitalism. But Islam, in its proposition and its ontology, is supposed to create different social formation, and hence we're supposed to see this one, alpha, be given to all factors of production equally. So therefore, it is the result of the systems. What is the system, guys? What is the order? So if I have a bank or financial system, which is that one, that is a, look, imagine this watch. There are so many pieces, yeah? Only if I put them together, they will make this watch work. So that will represent an order. So Islam represents the order. If I halalize a transaction, that doesn't mean that the order will function or system will function. Only if the all elements and components, ontologically, they are put together, then it will deliver the expectation. Hence, why Islamic banking and finance does not reduce inequality in our society? Why Islamic finance are not adding to substantially to alleviation of the poverty? Why Islamic finance does not create more just societies? Why the Islamic finance does not create less violence and stealing? These are the questions because the whole system, the order is not functioning. You have only partial implementation of Islamic values and hence there is a failure. I know, guys, the time is running, so I'll just rush over. So order of civilization, so Islam in that sense will present the order which we established that will function on the three alphas to be given, and hence that will be the distinction in terms of ontology. As there are others, Christian, Jewish, and others ontological understanding. So now that brings us that economic understanding as a part of the understanding the financial or modern world will come differently from the neoclassical in terms of economics, finance, and management. So you have rational self-interest. That is very much neoclassical, and that works as a system. But how we can bring social, political, and economic as a value system of Islam to create something original, that will be alternative system, guys. Now, one of the other things that we are trying to say that the whole movement of Islam, to make that barking happen, we need to break the convergence. So we are all moving toward one society which is called capitalism. Whether it's the Malaysia or Saudi or the Germany or UK, you see the capitalists. Who got the money, they have a final word. But Islam does not recognize that. Hence, in order to create that break on convergence, we need to see the different things. So I show you the picture of the failure of developmentalism, poverty, what are the civilizations have left on the beaches, environmental crisis, financial economic crisis. These are all the reality of the things. Hence, we are looking into ethical, productive, and consumption norms, which will be very much responded in terms of the theories, but also in terms of development that we want to see. What gives us rationale for Islamic moral economy, guys? From where that comes? So that if we assume that the human behavior is not value-free, there's nothing we do because we just want to do it. It has been motivated from inner side. So that's why it's also established in the conventional studies like John Stuart Mill's and others. They will call it assumed premises or differences in philosophical methods also Mill or Schumpeter will be the vision, and by default then it will be possible to have different Islamic moral, which ontologically is different from others, which brings us to the ontology of Islam: justice, adala wa ihsan, a sustainable mizan and ihsan, and then finally imperatives islah. Everything we do needs to lead to betterment, which is the islah concept. Now, the whole development, and this is ongoing, by the way, guys, this is not complete project. When we teach Islamic economics, economics in Arabic is usually loosely translated to iqtisad, but iqtisad doesn't mean economics, it means something else. Because it comes from the two words, the kast, which means objective, the truth, bas, which is also in line with equitable and temperate, and therefore Qist, just, share, and hence justice. So you usually say there is a balance between qast, so you don't go to the extreme, extravagance, neither the poverty, misery when you are becoming stingy. How to manage these two extremes is called qast in Arabic. And that's the really meaning of Islamic economics, which word is coming. But economics means managing scarce resources. So you have limited wealth, budget, but you have multiple wants. This is their understanding. Our understandings come from different propositions, which say you don't go to the misery or stinginess, neither to being just spending too much. How to manage this extreme? That's the word kast. And that's why we usually now refer to Islamic political moral as iqtisad, because you are capturing the deep meaning of the word, what it's all about, as has been articulated in the prophetic narration, because you have hadith which will use the kast word. Anyway, there are long things, and another one which is coming from this one is probably mizan. And I will stop with that because it's the issue of time. It's another 40 slides, guys. It's just one presentation. I wasn't expecting that the time will fly. Now, another meaning which we are developing in terms of create economics is a mizan. And this is the in Surah Rahman, which talks about to preserve the scale. So everything that's been created in the gods is with a balance. So if you have too much pressure on the resources, you have environmental crisis. You have too much pressure on the human beings, you have also injustice, no harmony in the society. So you have to give all stakeholders equal value, and that is to preserve the mizan. That's the meaning of the word in Quran. And hence that brings us to the whole concept, whether Islamic finance feeds to these concepts which are embedded in Quranic norms. So, and that is a developmentalistic pathway that we are looking to structure it. Now, there are many things that we could look at it, the meaning of Islamic moral economy, but the main one which I would like you to have when you get the chance in your future reading, try to understand the concept of Tawheed, Adala wa Ihsan, Rububiyyah, Tazkiyah. These are the ones which are the main ingredients to develop the theory of Islamic economics, to understand what we are trying to achieve beyond the just narrow understanding of age and age. And with this, guys, I will stop here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the time is very generous to us. But is there any question to answer? If may I allow one question from the floor? Is there any question from the floor? Soalan tak? Okay. I have a question from the online, but it seems like maybe we can give the personal question to Prof. Ali, because we have a very limited of time. You have a question? No. Okay. Is there any question from the? Again, I ask. So this is the opportunity if you want to ask the question. Guys at the back, yes, please. Question. Simple question, maybe. Come, one question. Okay, yeah, one question from that guy.
Go ahead, guys.
Please.
Any question?
What the challenges in implementing Sharia-based system in Islamic society?
Challenges. I mean, one of the main challenges, I would say, mashallah, you all study here Sharia, yeah? How many of you are aware of these fundamental issues that are discussed? I mean, the people who will supposed to make the change are the main factor. You don't bring the smart people and tell them what to do. This is what usually will be the current management style. You need to bring the Sharia scholars who have this knowledge and the vision to implement it. But if they are not aware what kind of things you are talking about, what is even possibility to implement any kind of Sharia base of understanding when the main stakeholders are not even aware of that. So I don't know whether I'm illusionist or not when I'm talking about these things. I know these are very much theoretical understanding, but I've been not long time ago Sharia student like yourself, and unfortunately these things are not taught in either Al-Azhar University nor in any Islamic university in Syria, and I know it for certain not in Saudi Arabia as well either. So, and then you are expecting the change. So what are the challenges? I mean, the main challenge is how you can teach the main stakeholders in this process to understand that fiqh needs to be updated. We need to use the different tools. We need to develop our jurisprudence to respond to these challenges instead of being ideologists. Because every single scholar, give me the name, you will see that if you are following this model, you will find that they are ideologists. There is no methodological reason to come, because somebody else will come with the different outcomes. And hence, we are dealing with these consequences, unfortunately. So yes, I still have a hope in you guys. You are the future and the generations. With social means, technologies that you have access to many things that people in the past didn't. So probably this message might come true. Then we can start to implement it in more pragmatic way instead of being just theoretical vision at the moment. But in terms of being fully Sharia based, I think we are really still far away. We will be still following or doing things on the compliancy base. We will put our own spices. That's the easiest one. But to become base, it's a really long process, unfortunately.
It's our challenge. Challenge is on us.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have like when we listen to the talk, we say this is very deep and insightful wisdom from the bottom of heart of Prof. Ali, and I think that represent we here in this room. So to if I may recall back to the slide, we need to bark a lot. We need to bark a lot as
We need to bark, yes.
we need to bark. We need to bark as if that all these systems might be in place where the Islamic economics and Islamic economics, Islamic finance would be the nature of in the mainstream, not only just a flavor, just compliance things, just says about halal and haram things and everything. I think that will be wrap up of with a very insightful speech. Thank you very much for coming, Prof. Big applause for Prof. With that. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And we end with the Tasbih Kifarah and so on. Subhanallah.